certainly has some of the hallmarks that we might think. The writing on the wall, potential political agenda. There's an act of violence. So none of those factors are lost on us.
The FBI also commented on the Las Vegas attacks during that same press conference, with the special agent in charge of the investigation saying it had hallmarks of a terrorist attack. Watch.
As of now, I can tell you that we believe the suspect approached the business wearing all black clothing, and he used what appear to be Molotov cocktails and a firearm to conduct his attack. At least 5 Tesla vehicles were damaged, to include 2 of which were engulfed in flames. As I mentioned earlier, we're still in the process of collecting evidence, but it appears the suspect fired at least 3 rounds into different Tesla vehicles, so we do believe a firearm was used.
Now, President Trump also commented on these attacks during a recent interview on the Ingram Angle on Fox News. Watch this.
Do you consider this an act of domestic terrorism?
I think so.
Why?
I think that if and when they catch the people, and I hope they do, the good thing is they have a lot of cameras in those places, and they've caught some already having to do with that. I think that you will find out that they're paid by people that are very highly political on the left.
Now, Elon Musk also commented on this. He claimed in a public post on X that 5 leftist organizations, as I mentioned, 5 leftist organizations, Democrat grassroots organizations on the far left, they're involved in the campaign against Tesla. He's saying basically these are the guys running the show, and several major donors and key figures on the left are the ones behind it. This is his allegation. He has not yet shown the evidence on that, which is where it gets complicated, so we'll see what comes out from it. But on the other side of the aisle, though, there's a big apparent kind of glee over the problems Tesla is now facing. And in Canada, Tesla was removed from the Vancouver International Auto Show, allegedly over concerns for the safety of attendees, exhibitors, and staff, meaning the violence, threats of violence, and so on is actually causing just normal organizations to shut down Tesla, meaning this is having real-world impact because, again, they are terrorized. They are afraid of showing Tesla because they're afraid of retribution, of being attacked. Of course, meaning that terrorism is having an effect. Now, this followed a wave of Tesla takedown protests in several cities in Canada. And in another incident also, a website publicly released the alleged names and home addresses of every Tesla owner in the United States, in an apparent threat to anybody who's bought one of the cars. Here's Newsweek on it. It said, a website known as DogeQuest, meaning, of course, Doge as in Elon Musk's government agency, meaning this is a direct attack on that, has allegedly published personal details of Tesla owners across the United States, sparking concerns over privacy and security. The site, which appears in the wake of anti-Elon Musk protests across the country, displays names, addresses, and phone numbers of Tesla owners on an interactive map and uses an image of a Molotov cocktail as its cursor, suggesting, again, it's recommending violence. The website's operators claim they will only remove Tesla owners' information if they provide proof that they have sold their vehicles. DogeQuest, it says, is an anonymous website that claims to empower creative expressions of protest by exposing Tesla owners' personal data. According to 404 Media, the site includes a searchable database of Tesla drivers, along with the locations of Tesla dealerships and charging stations. It also lists the addresses of employees of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and an agency associated with Musk. Now, according to Daily Mail, this DogeQuest website also links to a website called the No Trace Project, which says it is a collection of tools to help anarchists and other rebels understand the capabilities of their enemies, undermine surveillance efforts, and ultimately act without getting caught, meaning they're trying to conceal their activities. Now, Elon Musk responded to this website calling it extreme domestic terrorism. Now, whether it's from the protests, the attacks, or something else, it isn't really clear. But we can say for sure right now, Tesla is being impacted as a business. The company's stocks have been taking a hit.
And that's what they wanted.
And this is being cited as part of a reputation problem that Musk is facing. In other words, it seems the business impacts are due to politics. Now, in other news, there are also ongoing sprees of attacks against conservative influencers. These have mainly involved swatting incidents. I'll be talking more about this after I come back from a quick break. A recent spree of attacks as well against conservative influencers, and these have mainly involved swatting incidents. That's when people call in fake hostage situations or tell the police there's an active shooter going on. The police have to respond to that. They send SWAT teams to people's homes, and the targets are often raided at gunpoint. This can be extremely dangerous given that it involves police responding to calls that would require special weapons. They hold people at gunpoint. They believe they're going into an incident where someone could be armed and dangerous. Sometimes the people being swatted, they think their house is being robbed, and they sometimes have guns of their own. Now, the targets of swatting are typically taken by surprise. This risks getting someone injured or killed on both sides. And this has become also a new form of protest against Trump, as unknown individuals are calling in these incidents against mainly conservatives. In one of the latest incidents, InfoWars host Owen Schroeder was swatted. Now, that incident follows another very recent incident in InfoWars. One of their staff was murdered by firearm outside his home. It's being said it was a botched robbery. Now, there are different takes on that. If you talk to Alex Jones, he believes that this may have been a murder, may have been targeted. But back to these fake SWAT calls. In another recent incident, author and columnist Larry Touton, he was swatted at his home as well. He posted videos of the incident on X, and he noted it could have very easily turned deadly. Now, these are just a couple examples of many taking place right now. It seems, again, this is being used as a form of protest against Trump, where people are calling in swatting incidents like this against figures, journalist personalities they don't like. Now, FBI Director Kash Patel has also responded to these incidents. He wrote on X, quote, "I want to address the alarming rise in swatting incidents targeting media figures. The FBI is aware of this dangerous trend, and my team and I are already taking action to investigate and hold those responsible accountable." He said this isn't about politics. Weaponizing law enforcement against any American is not only morally reprehensible, but also endangers lives, including those of our officers. That will not be tolerated. And he adds, "We are fully committed to working with local law enforcement to crack down on these crimes. More updates to come." Also, the FCC chair responded to this, and he said that they're going to be allowing police to be able to access communications to figure out the locations of the individuals making these swatting phone calls. Now, folks, on another topic, the long-awaited files on the JFK assassination have now been released publicly. I want to give my take on it. Personally, it seems they're about as significant as the initial release of the Epstein files, meaning there's not much new. Of the documents that got most of the attention online, including the ones saying, might have Oswald ties, of course, maybe to Russia, the KGB, suggestions that there were people saying the CIA was involved. A lot of these documents were already actually public. People are just kind of rereading old ones. Many of these are claims that have already been investigated. They didn't really turn up too much, but people are kind of digging them out again. Now, they've gotten new attention from the release. There's not a lot that's technically new, but people are just rereading all of them is what's happening. And now, look, it turns out that we may have just not gotten all the files. Daily Mail said this: crucial information was missing from the JFK assassination files released by the Trump administration on Tuesday, according to an expert. It says the transcript of the first conversation between President Lyndon Johnson and CIA Director John McCone after the 1963 assassination has still not been released to the public. That's the one a lot of people want. And it said author James Johnson told this to USA Today. It says the document could help answer questions about any possible involvement from Cuba in Kennedy's killing, since the president had famously tried to use the CIA to kill communist dictator Fidel Castro. JFK tried doing that. And as McCone has previously been accused of keeping incendiary information from the Warren Commission that probed the assassination, as reported by Politico. Now, some of that was already known as well. That was partly because, when it goes to the communications on Cuba, the assassinations, a lot of it had to do with the Bay of Pigs invasion. That was 1961, 2 years before the assassination. The CIA trained Cuban freedom fighters, many of them Americans, to go and launch a war to retake Cuba from the Castro regime. Now, these freedom fighters ended up getting abandoned. They did not get the support that they were promised from the CIA, from the U.S. government. Many people believe that there was some bad blood in that because CIA operatives trained these guys, put their faith in them, and then the U.S. frankly abandoned them. They fought incredibly hard, the Bay of Pigs fighters. The battle only ended when they ran out of ammo, and they didn't get back up they were promised from the U.S. government. They were captured by the Castro regime in prison. A lot of them were killed on the way, suffocated. It turned into a very big diplomatic crisis. Many of them died. Many were also later released. I've been to the Bay of Pigs Museum, for example, in Florida. But there's also a whole part of the conspiracy on the JFK assassination that people who are angry about the handling of the invasion may have played a role as well. There's a lot of speculation on it, and so those communications would be important. But as of now, not much has changed with the evidence or the case, even with the new files we've gotten. The other important thing to remember is that the files, the ones we've gotten, they're basically the notes and investigations. And so they're not hard conclusions. Anytime a government investigation is carried out, they speak to witnesses, they speak to basically anybody who has any claim, they document them, and what we got are basically just those claims. There aren't any types of hard conclusions, the kind that maybe people were expecting. Those would normally come out during a trial, and we never got those documents either. Lee Harvey Oswald never went to trial because he was also assassinated. And so, if anything, right, the files have done so far, they've kind of reignited a lot of the exact same debates and speculations that have been ongoing since the 1960s. But there's also the bigger question of whether the rest of the alleged files could also be released. And this is now something people are calling for. Now, look, on to some other news, though. People who receive Social Security will now need to have in-person identity checks. Now, this is taking place amid allegations of widespread Social Security fraud and the investigations the DOJ department overturning a lot of this. AP said in an effort to limit fraudulent claims, the Social Security Administration will impose tighter identity proofing measures, which will require millions of recipients and applicants to visit field offices of agencies rather than interact with the agency over the phone.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders, it's real.
It says beginning March 31st, people will no longer be able to verify their identity to the SSA, Social Security Administration, over the phone, and those who cannot properly verify their identity over the agency's My Social Security online service will be required to visit an agency field office in person to complete the verification process, agency leadership told reporters Tuesday. And notes the agency will apply to new Social Security applicants and existing recipients who want to change their direct deposit information. So if you're applying for it or if you're changing your stuff, you might need to go there and talk to them. Now, the deeper context of this, kind of the stuff they don't mention to you, is that Elon Musk has been saying that DOJ, these investigations, found some, let's say, pretty big problems with Social Security. This includes recent reports. They've now removed a very long list of individuals who could not have possibly been alive, but were getting Social Security. Here's DOJ on it. This is the official Twitter page they have. They say for the past 2 weeks, Social Security has begun a major cleanup of their records. Approximately 3.2 million number holders, all listed age over 120 years old, have now been marked as deceased. Our people over 120 years old still alive, but they were collecting Social Security. And notes that more work still needs to be done. Now, look, at least one of the cases had a reported age that was older than the United States itself. I wonder if that was a living person, older than the country, older than the United States. There are also other allegations, including that there were basically no limits on the number of times a single Social Security number could be used. And so you could have almost infinite numbers of individuals using the same Social Security number for different things. It would have been possible for many people to use that. That's become a bigger focus because illegal immigrants often steal Social Security numbers, commit identity theft in order to work in the United States, the way that functions effectively. is if they want to get construction jobs or other jobs in the U.S., they have to steal somebody's social security number. And there are entire businesses set up that sell them stolen social security numbers. And that is a concern, of course, because of fraud. Now, Elon Musk posted a chart on X also showing just the age numbers. He said this, quote, according to the Social Security database, these are the numbers of people in each age bucket with the death field set to false. Maybe Twilight is real, and there are a lot of vampires collecting Social Security. And it's pretty crazy. We can see that there are over 1,000 people in the age bracket of 220 years old to 229 years old that are not dead, according to the Social Security database. There's even one person, as I mentioned, in the 360 to 369-year-old age range. Not to mention the millions of people in the 110 years old to the 170 years old age bracket. Some pretty old people in this country we didn't even know about, right? Now, Musk has also noted there are millions more people listed as eligible for Social Security than there are even living Americans. Let that sink in. There are more people on this database, millions and millions and millions, than there are even Americans. A user on X brought this up, noting the number of people in the list was around 394.9 million. But the entire population of the United States of America, citizens, it's about 334 million people. And Musk responded to that user saying, yes, there are far more eligible Social Security numbers than there are citizens in the USA. He said this might be the biggest fraud in history. So look, unless every man, woman, child living in the country is eligible for Social Security, along with an additional 60 million people, which is what it's over by, the numbers don't line up. How do you have an extra 60 million people above the entire population of the United States eligible for Social Security? Who are those people? But also look, and that also doesn't even include the ones using the same one multiple times. But also look, not everybody agrees. On the other side of the aisle, there are some saying that all of this is a conspiracy theory. This is a giant conspiracy. Although this ties more into speculation of what all the anomalies and the numbers could mean. The Guardian wrote this, quote, Elon Musk is claiming without evidence that Democrats have been using fraud in entitlements like Social Security and Medicare to attract immigrants and boost their voting ranks. Language that also echoes racist right-wing conspiracy theories. And Musk also said this is the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, that it will turn off fraudulent payments of entitlements to illegal aliens, as he listed off a long slate of government programs, including Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, and small business loans. Now, they say that's a big conspiracy theory. It's actually not. We do now know that illegal immigrants were actually getting Medicare, unemployment, disability, and small business loans, as well as money for houses and cars. This is confirmed. They say it's a conspiracy theory, although they also allege the broader idea that this is why they were bringing in these numbers of people. They're saying that's the conspiracy. But my personal take, something is definitely off about the numbers when it comes to Social Security. Something does not line up. It does seem evident, we can say at the very least, fraud is taking place. Now, the scale of it or the motive behind it, you can make your own conclusions. There are definitely people who do not want this investigated. There were a lot of attempts to prevent this from being investigated. But we could also need some additional investigations to find out exactly whether this was intentional, whether there's a motive behind it, right? Some broader scheme involved. Because if we're going to allege there's a scheme involved, well, we need answers in that as well. Well, everyone, that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining us. And as always, please take care of yourselves. Stay